All right, Dr. Owen, thank you for taking the time to come onto the podcast today.
Johnny, thank you so much for having me. Big fan of the podcast, so looking forward to this.
Yeah, thank you. Well, it's great to have you on. Tell us a bit about who Owen Everard is. What's your story?
I'll just go very quickly. So we hopefully, as you said, we were talking about a few things that we can get cracking into for benefit. But basically, I have a PhD in like human movement or biomechanics. I'm a chartered physiotherapist by trade, and then running wise, I represented my country from say 800 meters to like 10,000 meters, and I'm a sub 4 minute miler, sub 14 minutes for 5K, sub 30 minutes for 10K, and I'm the current over 35 European champion, and I'll be going for the World Championships now in about a month's time. So very, very quickly, that's the overview.
Yeah,
also, sorry, I'm like a Pilates instructor, so we do like online Pilates at everardpilates.com, and cool. I'm working on a new product. But yeah, that's basically me.
Yeah, and we'll get into that, like the Pilates and the products and things, because I would definitely want to talk more about, back pain and running, because there's a big correlation, I think, there. And I feel a lot of people think that like one causes the other, and so it'd be good to kind of bust some myths about that. But I mean, mate, European Championships at 35 plus, have you always been a runner? Like, how did you get into that?
I've always been a runner. Like it's funny, my brother actually ran for Ireland when he was younger. Like, I mean, like when we were about 13, 14. And he just kept like slagging me and saying like, he'd like randomly come down to breakfast in his Irish tracksuit. Just like, he wouldn't say a word, just for banter. So that like, then I was like, look, I got to get at least one cap. Like, we were always very fast. It's like, I got to at least get one cap just to like shut him up. And then, so I started at 16, and then by the time I actually ran then for Ireland, I'd gotten the bug and I'd enjoyed it. And then I did it all through college. I had a year where like I was going towards the Olympics, say of 2012, but in 2010 just had a year where I ran really terribly, even though I was taking a year full time. And but it was the best thing that ever happened, because it gave me better perspective of like, look, if you run terribly, nobody cares. That's what I found out. Like, and since then, I actually ran even better in the years preceding. I never got to the Olympics. I got to a European Senior Championships and World Student Games and all. But I just enjoyed it way more. I wouldn't give that year back to running the Olympics, because it just gave me that perspective. And I've been running ever since, and just really enjoying it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a client of mine watching it now, 14 minutes for a 5K.
Yeah. 13:58.
That's impressive. Chris himself actually ran a sub 3 marathon last year.
Oh, brilliant. Class. So, it's lovely to get like underneath the
he was buzzing about it. It was like a big goal of his. And I guess then, as you said, I wouldn't take that year back, even though I didn't run for the Olympics, because of the perspective it showed you and things. And is that when you were studying for you've got a doctorate now in biomechanics?
Yeah, that was before that. So I'd finished, like, say, the undergrad. I was then, I was kind of working, but I was like, look, I'll take this time off. Like, there's no money in running, so you're like basically living. I was just seeing a few patients just to live, and then trying to run my best. But I was putting so much pressure on myself, because I had been good all the way through. I always just thought, like, what would people in like Athletics Ireland, or, what would like just undefined pressure, undefined, like, if I really had to analyze it, I would have realized nobody cares. But it took running terribly to realize, God, look, in a good way, no one cares, in a good way. And then after I had that realization, there's a thing in the Bible, right, where not super religious, but where the wise men, they go visit Jesus, and then they have, it's such a small passage, but they have a dream, and in the dream it says, don't go back the road you came, Herod is looking for you. So they go another way home, and they go home safely.
Yeah.
What that means is, I never realized what that means is, like, if you have an epiphany, you like, because they've seen the baby Jesus, you've seen something, you can't go back the way you've came. You have, so like, while it's just a metaphor, it's like,
no, I like it.
It's like that. It's like, once I'd seen, because I had ran terribly, all the things I had been afraid about came true. And then once you realize deeply that no one cares, like I'd love to do a book called No One Gives an S, in a good way. But once you realize that no one cares, you can't unsee that. You know, I used to not be able to sleep, get very nervous, and then I was just like, and then I just started enjoying it, because you realize I'm only doing this for me. If I give up tomorrow, no one would know. As long as I was happy, no one would care.
Yeah, you're right, and I do like that, and it's, as you said, it's that metaphor of you can't unsee what you've seen, and you also can't go back to the way things were, and it's that great thing of like, there's no point ruminating on the past because you're now beyond that. You know that.
But it's like you, Johnny.
That has
like,
happened.
You know, you'd have people come to you with different type of diets or different nutrition, but once you kind of show them, you know, just like holistic food and like just doing simple things, even if they drop off, they can't unsee that. They can't then go back to a fad diet. Like they've seen the light, you know, even if they don't, it's like, once you see it, you can't then go back to where you were before. You can't unsee it.
No, you can't. No, and it's a great point. And I love that then that, as you said, all of your deepest fears kind of came true. And then you're like, and it wasn't as bad as you thought. So it was almost like you hit the worst. And so you were able to then process past that. And
the thing, and a lot of things are undefined. Like, I mean, like my sister went to the Olympics, but she never really got that. She always had that tension. Like if she had a bad race, look, you can be upset. Like I ran terribly last Sunday, but it's just like, in the end of the day, you're back running. I'm going to run again in Thursday week, you know, and nobody asked, like, say Chris is there, it's like, oh, wow, you know, sub 14. No one asked me what the worst time I've run. No. You know, when you come on here, they only ask you the best. They don't go, here, how many times have you ran 16 minutes? It's like, too many. So it just gives you that great perspective, and the fact that you do it, and then you can define what it is. It's like, okay, I was worried about what other people would think, but if you really think about it, then it just allowed me to really define that, like that worst case scenario. And it's something I would tell people to do. It's like, go through worst case scenario, like legit, like go through, play it out. Like, even if you catastrophize it, you'll be able to rationalize. You know, if I was like, all right, I'll run poorly, my friends won't like me because I'm not fast, my family will be embarrassed, they'll disown me. I won't, you know, once you start, if you go through it all, it's like, well, that's not actually true. But you can have this underlying tension in you, thinking that's what the case is.
Yeah. I mean, that's a powerful part of CBT, really, is going through your worst case scenarios and your worst thoughts and rationalizing them and reframing them. You know, like, okay, I can understand that that's catastrophizing, and actually what would be a more realistic or compassionate or rational viewpoint. And you can do that with everything. So it's great to hear how you did that with the art of running. I mean, tell me a bit more about how you were able to balance the sheer amount of training that you had to do. Because when people, like, let's say, you know, you're an adult, you've got a full-time job, you've got kids, you've got all these other responsibilities, but you want to get into running, it might seem daunting to get that volume of training in. But you were managing that as a grad student and working and doing all these things. How do you find the time? How did you manage that balance?
Well, I'm lucky in ways that, like, sometimes they just have to get up early. Like, so there's a couple of days in the week you're up at maybe like 6, 6:30, get your run done. I'm lucky in ways that with I lecture as well. You might have where, you know, that's only like, say, a 13 week semester, and then you have like a month off. So you can kind of dictate your own day. Same with if I've seen physio patients. So generally I just prioritize the run, because I always keep something in my head. It's like, I know I'm being successful when, because the thing is like, when you come out of college, you like the amount of money you want is probably low, and then if you get to that money, you're like, oh, well, I actually want double that. And then you get to that and your friends are making X, so you know you want more. So you're always chasing a thing. So I always find, if I think, what would I do if I won the lotto? Or I know I'm being successful when. So a big one for me is like, I know I'm being successful when I have time to work on my health and fitness, time for my wife. And like a perfect day for me is I get up, I work about 10 or half 10 if I have patience. I take a break, I go for a run, I come back. If I can get like a 30-minute nap with my lunch, I don't mind working then till like 8 o'clock that evening.
Sure.
Like that's just been a good day for me. So it's kind of prioritizing it. The thing I see as well, just with the Pilates, because we do a free trial, and it's like, honestly, I don't care if people sign up, but I want people to try it. Mm-hmm. Set times for yourself. You will be the last person. You'll always like do yourself over before someone else. So I had this podcast booked in. So we're just gonna like, this is definitely getting done. So if something else, but I have my run done. So I just have it that like, you have to have it. It's like, okay, I'm going to go running at this time. And then I'll change other things if I need to. You know, sometimes at work it's impossible, but you need to have it like written down on a page of like, these are the times you go running. Otherwise it's just going to fall apart.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. And even if you're, as you said, sometimes you've got to get up early. If you're someone who works a 9 to 5 and you don't control your days like you and I do, then you're going to have to, you know, you'll have to make that time for yourself. But as you said, booking it in like it's an important appointment, you're going to keep it. Even if you need to move it, at least then you're moving a fixed time block. And it's not like you're just saying, I'll go for a run at some point today. It's just,
I get that. Like, you know, sometime never comes.
Yeah, behavior change just doesn't work that way.
No. And then there is the thing with like James Clear of like, give yourself a reward or something just to try reinforce it. Because even if it's early if it's like, if I have to get up early, I like my sleep.
Yeah.
The night before, I'll set an alarm just to like coax me off the couch to get to go up to bed, to read my book, to go to sleep earlier. So at least then it's like, if I'm falling asleep at 10:30, if I'm up at 6, you know, you've had your, 7.5 hours.
Yeah. And as you said, you've got that reminder to say, hey, get your ass to bed.
Get your ass to bed.
Get your ass to bed, read a book, wind down, you have that routine. And it's just simple. Like, as you said, it's in Atomic Habits, it's in BJ Fogg's Tiny Habits as well. Like, if you set these little things that help you automate your behavior and remind you of the behavior that you want to do, it becomes easier to create a habit out of it. And if you feel good once you've done it, then it's even easier. And a good thing that running makes you feel good.
Yeah, exactly. Once you do, you always feel way better. You have more energy.
Oh, yeah.
And I think for people listening to this, if you're doing that, perfect. Because a lot of people are good. But if you're not good, a lot of people are like, I know that. But if you're not doing it, you don't know it.
No.
Not to understand and not to do is not to understand. So sometimes like, that would work for someone else, but not. Well, try it. Try it for 3 weeks.
It won't work for me.
I know that one. Like, there's another like Emerson quote where I have it. It's like, you ask for a new idea when you haven't used the first one. It's like, this is getting out, like, putting on your runners or your trainers and getting out for at least, even just like say 10 minutes, at least sets the time. And then you go, the days are getting brighter now. You go, you know what? I've got used to getting up at 7, being back at like 20:07. It's easy then to just add that on, but just getting in the habit. And as you said, writing it down. These are the days I'm doing my easy runs. These are the days I'm doing my hard run. This is the day I'm in the gym or whatever it is. You then prioritize. Like if someone asks you, can you do something? You're like, I can't do it that time. I could do it after that.
Yeah. You've got your boundaries then, haven't you, that you maintain?
Yeah.
Talk to me a bit about what distances are you running at the moment? Because I want to dig a little bit into your nutrition as well as your periodization.
You know what? I'm probably back down around 5K now. I broke the 30 minutes, but I actually don't like doing distance running. I just did it to break that. So I've ran like 49 minutes for 10 mile and 29. But mainly about 5K now.
Yeah, okay.
5Ks, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And so your training must then be mostly shorter tempo work. And I guess then, when you're doing a 5K as fast as you are and, under 14 minutes, it's like, you're not really needing to carbohydrate load as much as if you were doing a marathon and much longer distances, but you are still predominantly using that because of the speed at which you're running. So do you pay attention much to that? Do you just eat as you see fit? Yeah.
I've always eaten really healthy, but again, it's like, you know yourself, Johnny, it's like, like I'm lucky I like veg, so I've never
Yeah.
eaten where I'm like I feel like like I'm denying myself, or like you said with diets, or it's like there's no end here. This is the way I like. And even if I go off some food, if I go back onto it, like say if it's ice cream or something. Now I do have ice
Yeah.
cream on a Sunday. It's my treat, but I don't feel great after it. Do you know what I mean? So I
Right.
just keep that in my
Yeah.
head
Yeah.
because again, that awareness of, you know what, it's like this might feel good at this stage, but over time it might reduce the amount you're having. So what I would have
Yeah.
is there would be a hard run on. So it's kind of like I do like 10 miles on a Monday, 10 miles on a Tuesday, generally easy.
Right.
Wednesday would be like an aerobic kind of session. So still like I usually go like say above the distance, at the distance, and a bit easier. And we're in the winter time. So I also have it that like you're just trying to peak for like say 3 or 4 weeks where you're going to hit that really fast time.
Okay.
Before that, you're probably a little bit more aerobic. The other thing is when you are working, I like when I was full time or even in college, I could afford to go to the track, take ages to warm up, hit hard times. I'm working now, I got a wife, you got commitments. You don't have that time. So I like doing everything on heart rates now.
Okay.
So like session, like typical session during the week would be maybe like 4 by 6 minutes at lactic threshold with like 90 seconds off, and then do like 4 by 30 seconds hard after that. Like 90% hard, with like a jog back. Maybe it's a hill or something like that. So we do that on I do Pilates as well on a Monday with the run, and then I do Thursday would just be a run again, maybe 10 miles. Friday would be off. Saturday would be a more like specific type of session. I would be what's called like a neuromuscular runner. So I do need to get that little bit of like speed work. But again, it would be, I would tell people not to get too fixed on times unless they enjoy that. You shouldn't be dreading any training session when you're working if you just get it done. So what I'll do this weekend, this Saturday, it'll be like 2 miles at like threshold or a little bit easier, like marathon pace, but it's all off heart rate. Then I'll do 8 by 70 seconds. So for me, like 8 by 400 meters at like 10K pace with like a minute off. And then we'll finish with maybe like another mile or 2 miles at over like threshold. So you're doing about 10K of a distance at the end. That'll be like a good 10K session. But it's like easy, or not easy, but like controlled, off your heart rate. So it's not like, shouldn't feel stressed, because if I'm tired, I'll just be going slower. If I'm feeling better, I'll be just going a little bit faster. A little bit in the middle, because I need that type of work just so races don't feel like an absolute challenge. And then a couple of miles cool down of like tempo just to finish. And then we do a long run, like 90 minutes on Sunday.
Yeah. So 10 miles aren't the long runs. Not
no.
for you.
Yeah, about like 30. Look, that is long. Like that, you're getting 60, 70 miles there. It's kind of what elite runners would do. If it was just a normal person, the Wednesday's important, the long run's probably important, and the Saturday's important. Then I don't know. I'd love to get your opinion on this. So what I would do then is, I always have like say, kale, like the frozen bits. Then like I actually go for like kind of a vegan protein powder, bit of oat milk and a banana after every run, after like the 10 miles, after the things. Always have that. Guy was saying that the gastric emptying in that because of the kale wouldn't be great, but I just think it gets some greens in,
Yeah, I mean it's because it's post run, you don't need to worry too much about the speed of the nutrient delivery. Right?
Okay, brilliant.
If it was pre-run, I'd be like probably avoid fiber and just have this the smoothie and the fruits, because it's going to get into your system quicker.
Yeah.
But post-run, if you've then got a full 24 hours before your next run, you've got plenty of time to replenish your glycogen that you've just used.
Yeah.
So as you said, it gets some greens and some fiber in, which at the end of the day will slow the digestion down of those nutrients, but at least then it's gonna increase the staying power of that smoothie rather than have you hungry again after an hour.
Yeah, exactly. I kind of judge it like, as I said, I always like try to eat, like I have massive dinners. Like I have a lot of veg, a lot of meat, and just like potatoes, and then I have classic Irish.
Sorry, I had to laugh.
Potatoes. Yeah. Then I'd have like pita breads with like meat, like lettuce and tomatoes for lunch, and I have like a bowl of porridge with flaxseed, a little bit of cinnamon and honey, and then I always have a bowl of porridge about 8 o'clock in the evening, just something that we've always done.
So you can see the carbohydrate load is high.
Yeah, and I'd have probably a cone or a scone in as well, like a porridge bread scone. I try not to eat that much like wheat or bread, but I would have like a lot of carbs.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing. Like at the end of the day, you're doing 60 to 70 miles a week, and your pace is high. So it's you need the carbohydrates there for activity, which is absolutely grand. And I mean, you mentioned about the different speeds that you're running at. Obviously, you've run for a long time, but you're also biomechanics, Pilates. Running gets a bad rap sometimes for people's joints. So if you were like an average Gen Pop person who wants to get into running, how do you start increasing your volume but stay healthy?
A couple of things you need to do. The first is the variation is important. So like mixing it up. So having like an easy run, having rest days, having workouts will give you better performance than just constantly doing the same run like every day. The other thing as well is like have a definitive goal of what the session is. What blows my mind is like, say someone's getting ready for a 10K in the general population. They just go out and try run 10K hard, say like 3 days a week.
Yes, they do.
Not one runner I know. Like when I broke 30 minutes, I never had ran 10K. Never ran just 10K on its own, like just to check. It's so funny. I had one girl who she was in the Masters, and I was helping her a bit, right? Just giving her a bit of structure. Like I don't do much coaching or anything like that. This is literally just someone in my class. So she was actually talented, so she was doing well. And I ring her the day before. It's like, oh, you ready for the race? Yeah. I went out there. I ran 10K as hard as I can. I did in 41, so I'm pretty confident. I was like, what? Yeah, she just went out and ran the race the day before to see how she would do. It's like
brilliant. What a terrible strategy.
Terrible strategy. So I think having variation in what you're doing, and like even just mixing, having your threshold or having just like intervals instead of just like one hard solid run. The other thing then really, especially as you get older, look, and I'm biased. There's a reason I came up with the sports Pilates was for injuries. Is you need some type of like strengthening work. It can be sports Pilates, it can be the gym, because running is great for cardiovascular fitness and like burning calories, but it's not good for it's not good for like muscle activation. That's why all the injuries that you get are plantar fasciitis, Achilles tendonitis. They're all passive injuries. They're all like to the joints, to the tendons, or to the ligaments, because the passive structures are always there. They'll just take the load. Yeah. The muscular system needs to be kind of woken up. So you need, to be as healthy as possible is to be doing that at least once a week. That will activate those muscles, which then allows those muscles to take pressure off the joints. So that's like, one kind of thing outside of running. And then the last thing is just like, it's in two parts. This one would be like the load, right? Not more than 10%, but also not sudden spikes. So there's a thing called the acute to chronic workload ratio. And what that means is that it's not as much like the volume you do that causes injury. It's like massive spikes in the volume. And the times you see that will be, so just go up 10% every week for 3 weeks, and then fourth week drop back to your first week. So say if you were like running 5K in a run, I would pick like 2 of those runs, and maybe you go to like, you know, like 10% of 5K. Maths is terrible. So like say half a K. So let's say you go to 5.5K.
Yeah.
Then the next week, so week 1 you did 5K. Next week you go 5.5K. The week after that you do 6K. The week after that, week 4, drop back to 5K.
Yeah.
Then the following week you were on 6K, so now you can do 10% of that. So the following week after that you can do like say 6.6K until you're up to a level that you feel is appropriate. The other thing with that though is if you have seasons where, you know, some people they'll do like, say like Chris, you might do a marathon in the winter, in like, you know, in September, October time, and then you might be doing like park runs or 5Ks. What you need to do is not have sudden spikes. So, you know, you have people who they go to the track for workouts after doing like long, slow, steady stuff, and then they get injured, or vice versa. They've been doing like 5Ks and then they're now into a marathon block, build back to like, you know, 90-minute runs, 100-minute runs. So what you need to do is keep a little bit of that sprinkled in the whole time. So for the marathon runner, if they know they're going back to 5Ks, keep in strides, or like every like third week, have a shorter type session. So that the body always has like is acclimated to like that type of stress. And also, so say if Chris knows I'm going to do a marathon in like, you know, in October, and I'll have a 16-week block from July. Well, like in April, just keep in like a long run, like a longish run, like a 90-minute run or an 80-minute run once every like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Do you know? So say his longest is like usually 10. Well, maybe he just, when he's still used to it, he just every so often does like a 12 there, so that when he jumps back in and he's starting at 12 or he's starting at 11, it's not such a massive shock to the body. So they would be the ones. Vary up your week, have some kind of like strength training, Pilates, kind of restorative work to activate the muscles. Make sure that you only progress more than 10%, and in the 4th week you drop back to the 1st week. And then 4, make sure that if you're doing like, keep in the different types of training that you need. If you're doing longer stuff, have one kind of do strides or one type of shorter session every 3 weeks. If you're doing the shorter stuff, maybe just keep a long run in every 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah. As you said, you're training for the distance that you're about to do, but you start with a volume that you're ready for, and you have different sessions over the week of varying lengths so that you build up to that over time, rather than just smashing out the same distance every time as fast as you can, because that's not how you're going to get better at anything. You need that.
You're not going to get better at all.
You need that variety in distances and pace. And
and as well, because you're going to get tired the same place every time.
Well, exactly. Yeah, you're just gonna hit the same wall, aren't you? Whereas actually, you need those varieties, and it's good to hear you talk about that, because it's the same that, you know, if we were training someone's cardiovascular system, but for rowing, or for, you know, let's say for functional fitness, which is more my background, the school of thought is the same. Whereas there are some workouts where we go at the pace and the time domain that we're training for, and there are other times we'll go at a longer time frame, but at a, you know, more aerobic heart rate.
Exactly. Brilliant.
And then we have skills training and strength training to then bring it all together. Whereas there are a lot of people that just go hard every single session, but then they don't improve. And they're like,
but the same, because it's the same type.
You need that variety, exactly. And actually, when you get to that, you're kind of only ever working kind of hard, because you're not doing really short, very hard sessions and really long. To find that better middle ground.
Yeah, exactly. For any distance, you kind of need speed, so the start of it doesn't feel like you're sprinting, and then you need like the endurance, so at the end you can stay going strong, and that's all there is to it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you mentioned about, you know, you talked about why people get injured in terms of the joints, and because they're passive there and they need to be activated. You mentioned either strength training or Pilates, and that's why you created the Pilates membership. So talk about why that specifically is so good for running.
like any of it's good. Like I suppose this how the sports Pilates differs. I would have, from being a physio, I did Pilates instructors courses. What I found was they're a little bit too much like on the ground. Do you know, like so it's like bridge clamps, which are important, like core work, which are very important. But then it's like what for a runner, what you want to do, it's like about transfer. So you want to then get onto like all fours, get into standing and use those muscles or use those positions to activate muscles in the way that they'll be used in running. So we're just trying to increase the transfer from the basic exercises that you do into standing more so that it kind of mimics the running that we'll need. So that's kind of where it would differ for me with the sports Pilates is I'm always thinking about the transfer. The other thing is as well is it's kind of more designed for runners. So I always like a lot of the exercises will be like rehabilitation ones for the common injuries that you see. Like it's always going to be a plantar fascia, Achilles tendon, a knee, like hamstring tendinopathy, something around your hip or your lower back. So I just vary that stimulus all the time, as opposed to maybe having some moves that are not specific to try and improve those things, but are just generally like Pilates moves. And then there's other things about the Pilates that like roll downs I don't like, curling up the whole way with your back, just from a biomechanics standpoint. I don't think they're biomechanically sound. Like I
a
know
Jefferson curl.
Hate them.
Yeah.
Like if done well, they're not like anything. If it's done really well, it's not terrible. But it's like but the 90% of the time it's not done well. It's like why you. Sometimes people are doing these just for likes on Instagram. Like you have it, Johnny. It's hard being a nutritionist, especially with your message of like,
very hard.
Just do like keep things simple, do the right things, because people are like, I know that. They're not like easy. It's too easy. So if you don't, but you do like, like I drink my own urine and that's what does it. And they can have this whole thing. And then it's easier for them to have like posts because they're talking about like, and people are just naturally interested. It's like, what, he's drinking his own piss? Like, whereas if you just have common sense stuff, it's harder like to get likes or for people to actually pay attention because they kind of know it's correct, but then they're not acting on it.
Yes, because as you said, it's like, well, I know that's not new. That's
I know that.
It needs to be more. I think I think that's because people struggle, isn't it? So they want it to be more complex than it is, because then it gives you a reason. Whereas, like 100%. I always tell people, the reason you're struggling is not because it's complex. It's because there's so much information out there that you're just purely overloaded and confused.
Yes, and that's so well put. I hadn't actually thought the psychology of that. As well, it's like if like look, none of us want to think it's our fault either, and there's always like things you can improve. So if you knew all the information but still weren't doing it correctly, it's like it's your application of that. Now, as opposed to going like, if I didn't know the information, well, how would I ever have known the answer?
Yeah, and as you said, like people, we don't want to think it's our fault, and I think genuinely sometimes that it's more of the fault of the world we live in now, and that it's too easy to get shiny object syndrome. It's too easy to fall prey to a guru or an influencer, because as you said, if I came out with the acidic diet because the alkaline diet did so well for a period of time, people would flock to my page and be like, oh man, even if I had a doctorate in fungus, like I'll just put Dr. Johnny Landell's creator of the acidic diet, and I'd create all of this really like prophetic evangelical messaging to say this is why you failed and this is the solution. And because it's so unique and interesting, it would get loads of likes and shares and loads of follows, which then a new person coming in and be like, oh my god, this guy clearly has to know what he's on about because he's got all of these followers, likes and shares. So when you said, people don't want to, I genuinely believe that it's not our fault a lot of the time, because it's just because we're so misled from the information overload.
Yeah, that is true.
People like you and I who are like, actually, let's strip it back and keep it simple and think about the basics that are founded within, all of this research that we have over years and years and years. It's like, nah, it's too simple.
And as well, Johnny, in fairness, I think what you're good at, and like what I think I'm good at with the Pilates, is that the one thing that people are missing from the scientific side. So you got the kind of like the guru side where, you know, it's just this random like a point where they're saying like, this is what to do. And again, we kind of understand the problems there. But from the scientific side, like I lecture, and a lot of times when I'm looking over, I don't want to be bashing anyone, but like when I would have gone to lectures myself, like say if I was doing a lactic threshold test, right? Like here's what lactic is, here's what like the energy systems are. So just very like the anatomy of things, but like getting into like this is what you do on a Monday with this information. Like we have 5 training zones. I had to go so far and then break that down to go, this is actually what you do. Or when I was training properly, it was like you train. So when I'm training hard for a 5K, well, what you do, say if the goal was 5K, say you always have like a target race that you want to do. So say it's like 10K. At the moment, I want to be 10K fit. So I'll do one hard session that's 10K specific. I'll do one session above 10K that's a little bit easier, so kind of like a half marathon type. And you'll have one type of session. This is when I was doing 3 times a week, say in your 20s. That's 5K. So you're going easier below, hard at, slightly easier above.
Yes.
That sounds simple, but until people until I was like, that's what people are doing, no one can like lay this out for me. You know, and it's the same. I find with nutrition, it's like, eat veg or do, it's like, no, be so specific. What do you want me to eat like in the morning? You know, I did a good one with a guy just for like marathon, but again, it's like for the marathon, when are you having this gel? When do you go for this? So because people, like I see a lot of dietitians, like, you know, dietitians work in hospitals. Oh my God, like the transfer from theoretical knowledge to practical is insanely crap. It's terrible. And that happens across the board. So in fairness to people, I was probably being a bit harsh there. They generally know what to do, but it's like, but actually practically tell me what I need to do is different. Like with our Pilates, I could tell people like, glute work, core work, but we have different focuses every class. I have never like, there'll be themes in the classes, but they don't get repeated. Like we'll have 8 different themes.
Right.
You know, one is like transitions from the ground to standing. One is like core focus sliders. So can you control like the pelvic position? And we're working on that in different positions. One is what we call like Pilates flow, which is much more hip based and keeps it quite loose. Next one, we add a weight. So it's like that distraction and there's different exercises. So you need, and you'd be the same where with nutrition, where it's like you have the gurus or you have the people very general, and then it's just giving like people that framework, and that's actually that's not that common out there. So
no, it's the application of what you know information wise. That's exactly that is the exact key, as you said, and sometimes you can be very prescriptive with that, as you said, if people need it or want it, and then it's also helping people apply those principles for themselves. So like, okay, these are the principles, and then these are the foods that I enjoy eating and have access to. So how can I, you know, and as a coach, my job is to help them piece that together themselves, you know, but to guide them with that. So you're very right. And I
would just say to everyone, I know like you haven't said me, get a coach. You put like, there's no more time. It takes no more time or effort to do the right training. No. You know, so people can be so, I haven't really like quantified this in my head where it's like, you know, people are so connected to the money they have or the time, but future time and future money is not accounted for. Do you know? So it's just like you will get so much more out of that time and the effort you're currently putting in if you have someone or the accountability. So you know, if you've been on the fence, I would definitely say just do it. It's just I always find it sad when people are like, they're doing the hard bit, they're going out, but then they're doing the total wrong thing. And it's like, you just need guidance. So, you know, if you had someone like Johnny, just for even like a year, just to get used to it. And then if you did it, like I have a coach, you know, I'm coaching with the Pilates, or I give sample trainings to everyone, and I think about training a lot, so I know what to do. I still have a coach. I just like, hey, this is how it went this week. Just someone to be kind of like checking in. On our sports Pilates, we just have it every week. On a Wednesday, you get a call, and then on a Saturday, hey, you didn't do it this week. What's going on? Just you need someone just to be like on your ass a bit.
Oh yeah, no, I 100% agree. I've got a good bit of content coming out about how, you wouldn't build your own house, and if you talk to people about the most successful people, they've always had guidance and coaches. I had a coach, my last coach from the fitness perspective, I had for over 5 years, and then we only parted ways because my goals changed and because it was more, mine's more lifestyle health based now in terms of strength training. It's much simpler for me to program, but I still see the benefit in having someone else do that because it takes the load off of my mind. And as you said, if you're not someone who knows exactly what they're doing, to have that guidance, it saves you so much time. You're already doing the hard part of putting in the effort, so you want to make sure then that you're seeing the results that you want.
Yeah, we have loads of people say do it for a year, which is great, and then they kind of know what to do. After a year, you'll have a good idea.
That's it.
And then a lot of them come back because they're like, yeah, I knew what to do.
I love the accountability.
Yeah, loads. Like, sure, look, I take a break in August. Like, we just give people that time off, with the course, and I never do anything. I'm like, oh crap, I need to get back into this. Yeah. So even with me, it's like the group kind of give me the accountability to keep doing this stuff.
Yeah, I bet. It's good to have time off and, periodized rest breaks and things as well. But as you said, you don't want it to be too long. And you mentioned then, Owen, about, this core strength work and this activation work, and then having that crossover to running. Yeah. Talk about then that crossover to running. Do you look a lot at running gait and running technique?
No, zero.
At all. That's interesting.
Biggest myth going that.
Really?
Biggest myth going. Yeah.
Okay. That's cool, because I'm gonna, I might have been guru'd when I was then a younger CrossFit coach, because there was a big thing called CrossFit Endurance, which was a weekend seminar about running technique, and it was all about pose running.
Hilarious.
I want you to really debunk this now. Go on.
Well, personally, I think CrossFit Endurance is hilarious, because it's like me going and being like, this is called while I'm saying Pilates strength, look at my arms. I am not if you're looking for strength gains of actually it'd be like if I was strength. It's like, oh yeah, we're going to ask someone who has really good knowledge in this other area of fitness, but they're going to tack on. Yeah. So it's just going to be, look, we've been able to run for millions of years. We weren't waiting on some YouTube video of a guy telling me to run on my toes. It's crazy. Look, this is the problem. You can improve your running. Running economy is one of the three things that look for good performance. It's running economy, how smooth you are. It's lactic threshold, and then it's VO2 max. You can't really change VO2 max. So there's only two other variables that you can improve. Okay. Running economy, what you need to do is give yourself the building blocks. You need to you need to have good movement, good mobility and the joints and flexibility. You need stability, you need to be able to activate the right muscles. And then you need motor control, which is the technique work. So that for us, that would start with single leg deadlift, different kind of modified I call them running man exercises that mimic, activate the muscles in those positions. You can transition them into doing strides. So you're going quicker for 15 seconds, which will naturally get you up tall, running faster. If you really wanted, you could do running drills, which would be high knees, A skips, which would be 2 taps, both legs, skipping to get more on your toes.
Right.
After that, leave it. Never, ever, 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 ever. I think I said 7 nevers there.
I think so.
For a reason. Ever. There's 8. Start thinking about your stride, getting on your toes. You can do things of look down the line, looking forward, or just imagine yourself running easy. But this thing of running on your toes is there's a reason. Your subconscious is so much more is able to process so much more than your conscious mind. So if you don't run on your toes, there's a reason. There's a
Yeah,
reason. Like I knew a guy, he came silver medalist in the European under-20s Championship from Ireland, which was a big deal. The only problem was the guy who bet him was also from Ireland. So this guy did not win a province. Like he didn't win like a local race. He didn't win a national race, but then was coming silver medal in a European race.
Yeah.
So he would be like, there was a big rivalry between them, obviously. And he would then, the guy who won was on his toes naturally. So the guy then in second started copying that. And like he just started running on his toes. By the age of 21, that dude had to go for 2 Achilles surgeries and was out of the sport. Now that's extreme, but that's when you're like consciously trying to do something that your body's like, here, listen, there's a reason it's not doing that. So if you work on your mobility, if you work on your stability, and you work on like strides, going uphill, or you can do some running drills, high knees to get your knees going. After that, trust that your body wants to run smoothly. And if it's not doing something like being on your toes, or you don't look like the sprinter beside you, there is a reason. And don't try to add that in. And that's like, I just see that so often, people telling people, yeah, you need to do this on your toes, or that allow you to be more efficient. They don't have a clue what they're talking about.
Right.
Hopefully that wasn't unclear.
No, it was very clear. And definitely helped clear that up. I've got
I was a bit on the fence there. So.
No. It was, no, it's good to hear. As you said, like if you're working on the components of strength, mobility, and stability, and then you put that into practice, and you, as you said, you can imagine yourself like running easier and like look down the line.
Smooth, easy, relaxed. Yeah.
But you're letting your body take over naturally rather than overthinking it. I think that's...
But your body's defining. You can also look straight ahead, or like trying to stay up tall, but you're kind of letting your body take all those processes and work out what's best for it.
Yes, and everybody's will be different then, because everybody's limb lengths are different, and exactly. Biomechanics are slightly different. So it's good to have that variability between person to person anyway. My last question to you would be about like back pain and running. Because there seems to be a bit of a, well, some people say like, oh, well, running gave me back pain. That might have been an over volume issue, as we've talked about before. Whereas there might be some people that say, well, back pain, actually running helps me. And did you say that you've started to create a product that's kind of like for that in particular? Just talk a little bit about.
This thing is breaking my heart now. I'm spending some amount of money on this thing, but I really believe in it when it's coming. Well, when it's out, I'll send one when it's ready. Like it's like this, like like at the end of the tunnel. Yeah, it's the back aware belt. So the idea being that, like, when it's saying that mobility, stability, motor control, a lot of people don't have that technique, or they don't have the awareness of when they're in a good position. So what the back aware belt is designed to do is it gives you that awareness. It vibrates when you're in a poor position. So if you're slouching at your chair, or generally like say working out, it'll vibrate when you're in a bad position, or you can visually see it on the app. So that's currently what I'm working on. But like that, like a lot of times with back pain, like staying moving is the most important thing. And then just looking at what did cause it. So if your back is very sore after a run, for most people, running or definitely power walking, either way, there's like cross chains from your glute across your back. It's called like the oh my god, I've lost the name. What's with the lat dorsi? It's the the fascia there. I can't think of the name.
Don't worry about the complex name, but just
it's something lumbar fascia, basically from the glute through to the shoulder and on the other side. If you're doing a cross action, it basically like supports the back because it goes from one side to the other. So it kind of causes like a support. It gives the people a natural like pain relief. So if you can't run, if running was being sore, just power walk and then gradually add some jogging in and add some power walking. But for the most people, they'll find their back pain is more sitting related. It's more disc. So being up and active will really help that. And then taking little like micro breaks, like every hour, either stand, or what you might do is drop. I'm just going to drop this down so people can see. So you can just drop one leg. Drop one leg. So now you see where my back is now in a safe position. See the way it's here, so I'm not slumped, so I can be here, stretching my hip flexor, and I'll do that for like say 2 minutes, and then I'll come on and do the same thing.
Right. Okay.
And that just takes a lot of pressure off the back. But for the vast majority, guys, even if it's a little bit sore, you want to stay moving with your back. You know, like rest isn't an issue. It's like you really want to keep the muscles conditioned, and over time, you're gonna have a much greater chance of getting rid of it.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it's another advocate for that combination between like standing and sitting if you're working. And I mean, I've also got a treadmill desk which I use quite regularly. Although I've not, I don't know if you can tell, I've had like a really bad cold this week, so
no,
I'm being much more restful. But Owen, this has been
this is great. I love this, Johnny.
This has been a beacon of information. You know, we've Chris in particular, great insights here. You know, I've got plenty of clients. I've got plenty of clients who do a bit of running as well that I'll be sending this to, and I'll share it across my socials. But where can people find more about you and your work?
Best place to get me would be, I have a book called Get to the Line in the Best Shape Possible. It just has a good few of my articles. So you can get that at Everard, EVERARD, Pilates, PILATES.com/book. Or if people want to take a quiz for their back, you know, is it disc pain, is it SI joint pain, they can go to Back Aware Belts. So just as it sounds, backawarebelt.com/quiz. Johnny, thanks so much for that. I really appreciate this.
Yeah, Owen, it's been really fab to have you on. Great, you know, good luck with the project, and I can't wait to follow along and see how it goes.
Take care.